What we see right in front of us is the only moving, we call it a moving sculpture or moving monument that we have in Buenos Aires. It represents a very big flower. The name of that sculpture is Floralis generica. You know, we call it a moving monument because it works through I don't know if in English you say a photocells system, because it opens up the petals with the sunlight. So photocell, it's all right to say photocells?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as you put it in English, this is a posh place to live, right? Very expensive apartment. We still have some houses. You know, Buenos Aires, I mean, it's so close to the river. Trees, and you know, the winds from the river, you know, are blowing all the time into Buenos Aires. Sometimes when you're walking the downtown area where the streets are narrower, you can smell a little bit, but not much. You know, you can always see that the air is really very clean. So this small white house that we can see to the right is just a museum. Just let me tell you that General Jose de San Martin, he's the most important hero. San Martin Museum, Avenida del Libertador, Liberator Avenue. So you can see this. I mean, we usually, whenever we drive around this area, this is when we tell the people that these families, 300 families, became so rich that they owned Argentina. Here maybe you feel like you are in a European city. That's what they tried to do. So I think they reached their goal. By boat, yeah. Well, they said that it took about between 2 and 3, almost 3 months to go to Europe, you know, by boat.
So they spent a lot of time there.
Yes. The thing is,
Yeah.
yeah, because these families, believe me, they were so rich, they had houses all over the world. A little bit of fresh air, you know, far from the fumes in downtown Buenos Aires. Let me tell you something else. In Buenos Aires, we're going to see plenty of monuments to different military men who did something for our independence. I'm not going to name all of them because it's going to be rather boring. But if you want to know who he was, just ask me. Okay, he's Mr. Urquiza. To his right, you can see our planetarium. The name of our planetarium is Galileo Galilei, of course in honor of that famous Italian scientist. On the same site that today we have the planetarium, we have the Buenos Aires Cricket Club. And on the grounds of the Buenos Aires Cricket Club in 1867, a football match was played in Buenos Aires for the first time between the Red Berets and the White Berets. The White Berets beat the Red Berets by 4-0, you say, no? 4-0. Is that correct? 2-0? 4-0. 4-0. Thank you very much. And something else, let me show you. Buenos Aires is one of the few cities around the world where you'll find a small monument to Little Red Riding Hood. With a small white monument that you can see here to the left. Maybe you can see the little girl and the wolf lurking behind Caperucita Roja, as we call her in Spanish. We always say that her coat should be painted in red so people can distinguish her figure, you know, in the marble. And in front of us we can see one of the most beautiful monuments in Buenos Aires. We call it the Spanish Monument because it was, of course, a gift from the Spanish community to Buenos Aires. It's the biggest Art Nouveau monument in the world. The statue on top of it, of course, represents Argentina, and the 4 bronze statues. From here we see only 3. The 4 bronze statues around it represent the 4 most important regions in Argentina: the Andes, the Chaco, the Pampas, and the Rio de la Plata River. And also what we see to the right used to be our zoo. Why I say, sorry, it used to be our zoo because, you know, because of many complaints for the rights of animals, the animals were moved to much bigger place, right? And now that zoo is going to be turned into an eco park. They're going to bring a lot of children, you know, to teach them how to be nice to animals, and their surface areas would be between 180 to 400 square meters. And if you want to buy an apartment, remember something, real estate prices are really way too high for us in Buenos Aires. If you want to buy an apartment on Libertador Avenue, you will have to pay between 4,000 and 6,000 American dollars per square meter, right? What I want you to know is that in Argentina, whenever you buy a car, a house, one of the wealthiest families is the Alvear family. They lived in the beautiful house that you can see here to the right. In 1937, that beautiful house was turned into the Museum of Oriental and Decorative Art. It's also a museum worth of visiting. Gracias. So as you can see, this is a very exclusive avenue, so no green groceries, butchers or supermarkets are allowed. Just a few shops, coffee shops, banks, and some of the most expensive car dealerships as well. So, lista in Spanish. That building is our national library. But let me tell you something else. Have you ever heard of Evita or Perón, the Perón couple? Okay. On the same site used to be the beautiful mansion where Eva Perón and Perón lived while he was president of Argentina. In 1955, when he was toppled by a military coup, the military government decided to pull down the house to wipe out, to erase any trace of Perón's government in honor or honoring President Mitre. But behind President Mitre monument, you are going to see another beautiful house. That's the British Embassy. It's actually the residence of the British ambassador. You know, the lovely house that you can see now behind the monument, behind the trees. The British consulate is next to the British embassy. Let me tell you something. Most of the paintings and pieces of furniture in the British monument in the British embassy were lent by the Victoria and Albert Museum. So, I mean, sometimes you can go, sometimes they open the doors to the public and you can walk in and visit and take a look at the beautiful pieces of furniture they have inside. So, once again, back in Recoleta. To the right, you're going to see France Square with a monument given to Buenos Aires by the French community. And to the left, our Museum of Fine Arts, Museo Nacional de Bellas Artes. If you want to go and visit that museum, it's for free. They open the doors at 11:30. From the hotel, yes, it's like, let me tell you, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like you are like 12 blocks from the hotel. So, you know, after the high economic crisis, the big economic crisis that we went through in 2001, many people lost their jobs. So people started, you know, putting up stalls around the parks and sell whatever they knew what to do, you know, like pastries or any kind of handy. Swing after 1 p.m. You know, and you will see people dancing tango and singing tango in the streets as well. Well, here we are again in Recoleta, and we're going to make another stop here, right? We're going to make a stop and visit a very unusual place we have here, which is a cemetery. Once we walk into the cemetery, you will see why we make a stop at this very art place. We always tell the people that it's like a museum of art in the open air. You will see the style of the walls, plenty of statues, stained glasses. Once again, the difference between the rich and the poor, because Recoleta Cemetery is just a cemetery for rich people. Then I will...
She's 5 meters deep. Any place can go deeper than 5 meters deep by law. And her casket has been covered by heavy fiber to ensure she will not cause any occurrence in the future.
When your family is dead, they just want to say, look at my family. It's silly, but it's true. I have thought of it. Intolerance. The tomb is actually very big and it's very expensive because it was made of Scottish granite. They brought granite all the way from Scotland. You know, last month I had this couple from the UK and the husband was an architect, and he said that this granite was actually from Aberdeen. What people are thinking of, what people were thinking about when they went and voted for her. But there are so many vested interests, you know, and so many bribing going on, you know, because her government stole so much money from us taxpayers just to bribe everybody. Because the world is saying, you know, passing laws just to benefit them. Corner in Buenos Aires. I'm going to show you President Pellegrini Square. The small square that we are seeing now to the right, which is surrounded by the Jockey Club to the left. President Pellegrini was one of the founding fathers of the Jockey Club, the Brazilian embassy to the right, and the French embassy in front of us. Remember that all of those places used to be the homes of those rich families which turned Argentina into the 6th richest country, you know, in the late 1800s and early 1900s. So now we are leaving Recoleta behind, and we are starting to drive along the 9th of July Avenue, the widest avenue in Argentina, as I told you before. With the name of 9th of July, we honor the date of our independence from Spain, 9th of July of 1860, Santa Fe. So if you walk down the street up to 8156, you will find, or you will be able to visit the most beautiful bookstore in Argentina. It used to be a theater, then it was turned into a bookstore. You know, it was ranked as the 2nd most beautiful bookstore in the world by a British newspaper, The Guardian. Yes, but it's yes, it's really pretty easy. You just walk up to San Martin Park, and there you have the beginning of sunset. From the hotel is actually, you have like homeless people in Buenos Aires uses the fountains, you know, to wash their clothes, and sometimes, you know, in the summer when it's really hot, poor children use the fountains as swimming pools. Okay, and what we see to the right now is the back of our opera house. That's Colón Theater, Teatro Colón. It's among the 5 most important opera houses in the world because the acoustic is perfect. You know, we are seeing the back of the opera house. The main entrance is on the other side. Usually people ask me, how come that beautiful theater, I mean the back of the theater overlooks this avenue instead of the front, the main entrance to the theater. Exactly, very good. You should work as a tour guide here. Your English is much better than mine. Okay. All right. Yes, the theater was opened in 1908 and this avenue in 1937. So we are... And the obelisk, I mean, you ask me, why do you have an obelisk? Okay, remember that I told you that we wanted to be a European city. In London, you have an obelisk. In Paris, you have an obelisk. In Washington, in Rome. So why don't we have an obelisk? We put it up, you know, in 1936 just to honor the first foundation of Buenos Aires, which lasted for only for years, because then it was burned down by the natives here. But 400 years later, we wanted to honor that date, so we put up the obelisk. Also, to the right, at the end of almost reaching the end of the avenue, you can see the tall white building with the face of Eva Perón. So you can see she's still very famous in Argentina. At night, her face is lit up. As you put it in English, we have no middle ground about Eva Perón. People still either love her or hate her. What we have to say is that she did an amazing social work, especially for orphan children, senior people, single moms. I mean, she founded a lot of public hospitals, public schools. I mean, she did, maybe sometimes not using the right methods, but she did a lot for the needy people, right? So we are driving along this avenue, which is Mayo, Street of Mayo, which comes from the month of May, because on the 25th of May of 1810 there was a revolution in Buenos Aires. The Spanish viceroy was kicked out, and then we had a government made up of local people. 6 years later, we actually declared our independence from Spain. So we're going to make another stop at Plaza de Mayo. Remember that Plaza means square, like piazza in Italian, Plaza de Mayo. We're going to make a stop at Plaza de Mayo. I will give you some short explanations, and then I will give you some time on your own so you can walk around and take pictures if you want. Uf, mira cómo está lleno. Well, this is nice to see so many white buses and white vans, because it means a lot of foreign people like visiting Buenos Aires, which is good for business. So we're going to stop here, but Alberto is going to be waiting for us on the other side of Plaza de Mayo. At around, some offices open at around 8, some at 9. The banks open from 10 to 3 p.m.
Is there a siesta?
No, the place where I was born and raised, which was a small town about 100 kilometers south from Buenos Aires, people still take siestas, and so the bank closes, the shop, not the banks, but most of the shops, but not in Buenos Aires. Many people, but not many people usually ask me why our government house was painted. I just spoke with an architect who is in charge, of taking care of old buildings in Buenos Aires, and he told me, the real story why it was many years ago. It was painted in Elmo to the flea market. This is really a very picturesque area, right? It's one of the oldest quarters in the city. I mean, you can walk around, plenty of places to go for coffee, for lunch, plenty of old buildings. Most of the tango venues are here in San Telmo, like La Ventana, the window, the way you can see to the right. We still keep the cobblestone street. These streets have been renovated, throughout the years, but the stones cannot be taken out. It's part of the flavor of the city. And also along this street you can see some, I don't know how to call them, dummies or what, like the one here to the left holding, some balloons in his hand. The thing is, all of those dummies that you're going to see along this street are part of our local comics. The one we just saw with the balloons, most of the comics are from the late 1930s. dictatorship. You can read the words memory, truth and justice. And what you see to the left, it's a kind of a big mound of earth with some names written on white papers stuck in the ground. In that same place we used to have a factory, you know, where police officers' uniforms were made, and that place, that factory was used as a detention center. The biggest of the domes represents Jesus Christ, and the four smaller domes around it represent the four Christian evangelists, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. That church was a gift from the last. When he died, and then his wife became a widow, she sold the park to the government of Buenos Aires city on the condition that it should be named after her husband. That's why it was called Lezama Park. Although you can't see it from here, on top of Lezama Park we have a very big house which was turned into the National Museum of Argentinian history. Let me tell you something else. If you come back to San Telmo and you're walking around this area, right next to the Russian church, you're going to see a small cafe. I think I won't have to translate the name into English because the name of that cafe is El Bar Británico, the British bar. Why we call it the Bar Británico? Because the first name was the Harvester. But you know, many English people were working in Buenos Aires for the trains when the first warnings and windows are painted in yellow, or as we put it here in Argentina, in golden and blue. Those are the colors of Boca Juniors. You can see beautiful paintings, murals, you know, to the left, representing tango, representing football, and to the left you can see, you have a view of a Boca Juniors stadium, the oldest and the smallest we have in the city. Here you can see Tevez played for, I can't remember whether it was Manchester City or Manchester United, well, but he played for an English team. With reference, you know, to the Boca Juniors stadium, that one over there, yeah, to the right, exactly. Built in 1940, it can seat around 40,000 people. If you want to know why Boca Juniors colors are yellow and blue, I will tell you the story. The team was, you know, founded back in 1905, and they couldn't make up their minds about which colors to give to the team. So they say, okay, we'll let Juniors beat Motherwell by 2-0, but a couple of days before, Motherwell had played against another Argentinian team, beating the Argentinian team by 1-0. So Boca, B-O-C-A, this is the place where the big match took place a couple of weeks ago. Today it's going to take place at River Plate Stadium, which is in the north of Buenos Aires. That's why the River Plate fans are called the Millionaires, because River Plate Stadium is in the northern area of the city. Also, you know, on the walls, on the outside walls of the stadium, you will be able to see some murals which were done by a local artist, Mr. Maggio, representing the stories of La Boca, the tango, the carnival, the football players that were born or played for Boca Juniors Stadium. Of course, all of them were done in yellow and blue, the colors of the team. You know, the fireman brigade, the tango, because supposedly it was born here in La Boca, a mouth full of footballs instead of, you know, teeth. Here you can see Maradona singing with the rest of his buddies. You can see angels and demons, because they say that football brings out a lot of passions. And the British ship, you know, with the Swedish ship, sorry. The name of the ship was the Drottning Sofia, which in Swedish means Queen Sophia. No, you know why we don't have IKEA? Because IKEA's policy is that people from Sweden told me that they will never ever put up, you know, an IKEA in a corrupt country.
Really?
Yes, Argentina is very corrupt, so we'll never ever have IKEA here in Argentina. Well, around the area you can see old houses which were made of corrugated iron and wood. The ones who were built by the immigrants more than 100 years ago. The ones who are tenement homes, you know, plenty of small rooms inside. People living crammed together in the convention. We call them convention because convention comes from small convent, you know, the small rooms where the nuns live. Going to see a lot of buildings falling apart around this. This is a place where a lot of tourists come to, but it's also one of the poorest. Here, you know, for instance, to the left you can see some conventicious or tenement homes. Most of the conventicious or tenement homes around this area have been turned into gift shops, but people still live in the conventitions around La Boca. Because they decide, I mean, the story goes that the immigrants didn't have money to buy paint, so they went, you know, this area used to be, we used to have a lot of shipyards, so the immigrants went to the shipyards to ask for some paint, so they were given just any color that was left after painting a boat in La Boca. So, we're going to make a stop here. Let me tell you something. First of all, in every gift shop you have toilets. You can use them for free. You have coffee shops. You can go and change mine if you need to. And something else. First of all,
Is that the latest one?
Pero dice que no saben si se juega. Hay que escuchar.
I mean, I've spoken to many people from the UK and they tell me we do not care about the islands no more than you do. So it's okay, because sometimes people come to Argentina and they ask me, is it true that it's forbidden to talk about, no, I see the island, you know, we call them Malvinas here, or the no, it's okay. I'm calling them, what you see here, you know, to the right is the first monument to President Perón that we have in Buenos Aires. Also, while behind Mr. Perón, you've seen the customs house, and alongside the customs house you can see a very big building which is the Ministry of Defense. It used to be the Ministry of War, but the previous government thought that was too harsh a name, so they changed it to the Ministry of Defense.
Quite content with that, it used to be called the War Office.
Aye, how do you call it? Ministry of Defense. So we're not the only ones. Okay, that's good to know. So once again, to the left you can see the back of our pink house, the government house, and what you can see to the right, you're going to see some very modern tall buildings. That's Puerto Madero. Those are our docklands. Everything was built hundreds of years ago by British companies, you know, Hawkshaw and Hayter and Son. Right? You can see that the red bricks warehouses have been turned into lofts, restaurants, offices. It's a very expensive place in Buenos Aires to live that we have in the country. What? Yes. The huge building that you're going to see now to the right, that used to be our central post office. Now it was turned into the Kirchner Cultural Center. You know, Mrs. Kirchner named everything after her late husband. Christina Kirchner was our president for the last 8 years, right? The corrupt government that I talked to you about. What I wanted to tell you about Puerto Madero is that every street in Puerto Madero was named after a woman. You know, women who are part of our history, women who fought for our independence, women who also fought for the rights of children and women. You have Marshall Avenue. You will see hundreds of thousands of people gathering around here because, you know, around the corner from the hotel we have one of the most famous Irish pubs in Buenos Aires called the Kilkenny. And you know what people celebrate on March the 17th, right? St. Patrick's Day. But I have to be honest with you, not many people know. It closed down in the early 1990s. It has been closed ever since. Now I saw that they're going to turn it into a big shopping mall, offices, and also a big spa with a swimming pool. You can see, you can read the name Harrods up there. So at the next corner we're going to turn to the right. This is the end of our city tour. I hope you really liked what we showed you, Buenos Aires. Forgive me for talking